Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. We're looking at Abhimanyu, the lion of the Chakravyuha. And to really get it, we are starting smack in the middle of one of the deadliest, most inescapable traps in ancient military history. We're going to explore the absolute unbelievable courage of the warrior who stepped right up to break it.
16. I mean, really think about that for a second. The legendary warrior facing this insurmountable trap, the hero who's about to charge headfirst into an army of seasoned veterans and mythological titans, was only 16 years old. At an age where most of us are, just trying to figure out our place in the world, Abhimanyu was stepping out onto the front lines of the Kurukshetra war. He was fighting alongside and against the absolute greatest warriors of his age. It completely shifts how you look at his bravery, right? This wasn't some battle-hardened old general. This was a kid displaying a level of guts that would outshine men with decades of combat experience.
So to really grasp the stakes here, you have to understand what the Chakravyuha actually was. It wasn't just a bunch of guys standing in a circle. It was a highly complex, continuously moving, multi-layered defensive labyrinth. Put together by the Kaurava commander Dronacharya on the 13th day of the Great War, it was brilliant, but entirely fatal. Once you got inside, the rings of soldiers would literally shift and close right back up behind you. It cut off any hope of retreat or backup. The whole thing was engineered to disorient, exhaust, and obliterate the enemy. For the Pandava army, it was a total nightmare scenario, mainly because almost nobody alive actually knew how to navigate it.
Now, to understand how a teenager ended up at the dead center of this meat grinder, we have to flash back to his origins. Abhimanyu was born into the noble Kuru dynasty, but it's a specific parentage that really set this whole destiny in motion. His dad, Arjuna, basically the undisputed greatest archer of his time. His mom was Subhadra, a princess of the powerful Yadava clan. And if that wasn't enough royal pedigree for you, his maternal uncle was none other than Lord Krishna himself. So Abhimanyu wasn't just a random soldier. He was the heir to absolute greatness, carrying the immense weight and sky-high expectations of a truly legendary bloodline.
According to the legend, his tragic destiny started before he even took his first breath. It's like a puzzle he only ever got half the pieces for. Step 1. Arjuna is explaining the highly guarded secret of how to penetrate this spinning labyrinth to his wife Subhadra. Step 2. The unborn Abhimanyu, who possesses this extraordinary intelligence, is actually listening and absorbing the tactics. But then we hit Step 3. Subhadra falls asleep. And because of that, Step 4 seals his fate. Arjuna stops talking, and the secret of how to exit the formation is never spoken aloud. So Abhimanyu is born knowing exactly how to break in, but he has absolutely no idea how to get out.
Growing up, though, he didn't just coast on his natural talents. He really put in the work. He was guided by the absolute greatest minds of his era, getting elite training straight from his father, Arjuna, and his uncle, Lord Krishna. He rapidly mastered the whole shebang: archery, swordsmanship, mace fighting, you name it. But beyond just his physical strength, he showed this exceptional discipline and deep intelligence that earned the respect of everyone around him. And as he grew, he fulfilled his political duties too, marrying Princess Uttara. This wasn't just a romance, it secured a massive alliance for the Pandavas with the kingdom of Matsya, cementing Abhimanyu as a vital pillar of his family's future.
Let's fast forward to the 13th day of the Kurukshetra war. This is where the theoretical lessons of his youth suddenly become a terrifying reality. The Kauravas deploy the Chakravyuha, and boom, the Pandavas have a massive crisis on their hands. Remember, Arjuna is the only warrior on their side who knows how to completely break the formation from start to finish. But the Kauravas are smart. They deliberately draw Arjuna far away from the main battlefield, so the Pandava army is completely paralyzed. They're staring down this meat grinder of a formation, their greatest asset is missing in action, and morale is just plummeting. They need a miracle, or they need someone willing to do the impossible.
And right at that exact moment of crisis, Abhimanyu steps forward. He tells the seasoned generals, look, I can break in, but he also admits his fatal flaw. He doesn't know the exit. Just think about the psychological weight of that decision for a second. He's essentially agreeing to walk straight into a locked cage with the world's deadliest predators. Knowing full well he had no exit strategy, he volunteered to lead the attack anyway. He plays duty entirely above his own safety. It's just a stunning, absolutely pure display of selfless courage.
Now the plan was for Abhimanyu to smash the outer ring, and then the rest of the Pandava forces would immediately flood in behind him. But war rarely goes according to plan, right? A warrior named Jayadratha actually manages to block the breach right after Abhimanyu enters, physically stopping the backup from getting through. So picture this stark, insane contrast. On one side, you have a lone 16-year-old boy, completely cut off from his allies inside the trap. On the other side, the greatest, most legendary generals of the Kaurava army.
Drona, Karna, Ashwatthama, Kripacharya, Duryodhana. These guys are mythological icons. And yet, the single teenager terrified them so much and fought so fiercely that they realized they couldn't beat him fairly. They had to throw out the sacred rules of war and attack him all at once just to stand a chance.
What happens next is honestly one of the most breathtaking sequences in the entire epic. Completely surrounded, totally outnumbered, trapped in the belly of the beast. Does Abhimanyu panic? No way. He unleashes absolute havoc. He doesn't just defend himself, he goes fully on the offensive against the greatest warriors of the age. He's destroying enemy chariots, defeating seasoned soldiers left and right, and causing massive, heavy casualties to the Kaurava army. He literally turns into a one-man army, a whirlwind of destruction that forces the enemy commanders into a state of total, desperate panic.
If you track how this goes down as the minutes tick by, you really grasp his sheer, unbreakable will. The Kauravas, fighting totally unfairly, start systematically stripping his defenses away. Minute 1, boom, his chariot is destroyed and his bow is broken, so his ranged attacks are gone. Does he quit? Not a chance. Minute 15, he's drawn a sword and shield and is fighting fiercely in close combat until those get shattered by the mob of generals. Unarmed? Still no surrender. Minute 30, he literally reaches down, rips a broken wheel off a destroyed chariot, and starts swinging it, fending off legendary attackers with a piece of wood. Finally, by minute 45, he picks up a mace, swinging with every last ounce of strength until he is physically overwhelmed and struck down by multiple attackers at once. It's an awe-inspiring display of relentless grit. He downgrades his arsenal step by step, but he never, ever downgrades his resolve.
When Abhimanyu finally fell on that battlefield, after giving what is widely considered one of the bravest fights in the entirety of the Mahabharata, the silence must have been absolutely deafening. But that silence didn't last long. It was quickly replaced by massive shockwaves of grief, horror, and just burning fury that radiated through the entire Pandava camp. This wasn't just the loss of a soldier. This was the brutal, completely unfair slaughter of their brightest young star, the beloved son and nephew of their greatest leaders.
The immediate aftermath changed the course of the epic forever. The Pandavas were heartbroken for sure, but that sorrow quickly forged into steel. Arjuna comes back to find his son unfairly murdered, and he is just consumed by righteous wrath. He makes this terrifying vow. He's going to kill Jayadratha, the guy who blocked the backup forces, before the sun sets the very next day, or he'll walk into a fire himself. And he fulfills that vow, making Abhimanyu's death a massive turning point that totally shifted the momentum and ferocity of the war. And you know, despite his short life, his lineage actually survived. His wife Uttara gave birth to a son, Parikshit, who eventually grew up to become the king of Hastinapura, ensuring that Abhimanyu's bloodline would continue on.
Today, thousands of years later, Abhimanyu remains this incredible, timeless symbol. He is remembered not for the length of his life, but for the sheer, unquestionable greatness of his actions. His story transcends the ancient texts. He represents fearless youth. He represents that unwavering, righteous commitment to duty over self-preservation. He really teaches us that true honor isn't about avoiding defeat. It's about exactly how fiercely you fight when the odds are entirely against you.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to ask yourself something. We might not be fighting on dusty battlefields with bows and chariots, but life has a way of throwing its own inescapable labyrinths at us, doesn't it? We all face overwhelming odds, moments where the trap closes in and the exit just isn't clear. When you are faced with your own personal Chakravyuha, how are you going to respond? Will you step back and choose the comfort of safety? Or will you channel the spirit of a 16-year-old warrior, pick up whatever broken wheel you can find, and choose the courage of duty? It's definitely something for all of us to think about.